Blog Talk Radio.
Ichamo apura kanu apurai kaitmu neye ojirada midinde Odwirafo Kwesi Nehem Ptah Akan Aakhuamuman and Marukai TV mu Odwirafo. It means greetings to all apurai kani apurai kaitni people, meaning Africans, black people. Today is Ojira Day, Purification Day. My name is Odwirafo Kwesi Nehem Ptah Akan, Odwirafo of the Aakhuamuman Nation in North America. Yet I'll say we thank you for tuning in to the show once again. We're going to put some links in the chat room for the information that we will be addressing tonight. For the individuals who are new to the programming, if you have a question or a comment and you're on the phone line, just hit the number 1 so that we can see that your hand is raised. If you are in the chat room, you're going to join the chat room. If you'd like to comment in the chat room, you must log in with the username in order to comment. If you do not have a username, you can sign up for one very quickly in Blog Talk so that you can comment in the chat room. All right, so, and also for just announcements for individuals who are new to the programming, we have 3 broadcasts on a weekly basis. On Joda, on Mondays, we have Akan for Nanason, ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion. So we deal specifically with the Akan expression of ancestral religion on Joda on Monday nights. We deal with it from the ancient, authentic perspective. So we go all the way back to our ancient ancestral religious practice and expression, ancient Khanat, a title of ancient Nubia. Of course, Khan in our ancient language means first or foremost, from the beginning, from the south and so forth. The Khanat land, or the Khanit land, is the first land, the foremost land, the land of the south, the land of the beginning. Khan also means to count or to reckon or to calculate, dealing with the foundation of civilization, dealing with measurement and calculation. Of course, the people are called the Khanit people, or the Khanat people, from the land of Khanat, which is the title of Nubia. Then, of course, in the Akan language, Ghana and Ivory Coast, the root Khan means first and foremost. Khan also means to calculate, to count, to reckon. So we deal with that reality that our ancestral culture and ancestral religion as Akan people comes directly from ancient Khanat, ancient Nubia. Then we migrated to the western part of the continent a couple of thousand years ago after the fall of Kemet, and some portions of Khanat, Nubia migrated to the western part of the continent, reestablished the empire of Khana or Ghana, stayed there for about 1,000 years. Because of Muslim invasions and the deterioration of the region, we began to move south from that region to the regions of today's Ghana and Ivory Coast, and reestablished Akan civilization in those regions. A few hundred years after that, some of our people were taken from those regions and forced during the Musuo-Kesie, the great perversity, the enslavement era, to the Western Hemisphere. And this is how we ended up in North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, and Europe during enslavement. And of course, Akan people maintain our ancestral religious practices, ancestral culture, and so forth. And we utilize the strength that we derive from our culture to wage war against the white offspring and bring an end to enslavement. And the same is true of other Apurakani people. Those who maintain their ancestral religious practices are those who coalesced to bring down the enslavement era, to end the enslavement era, to bring down the so-called slave system through waging war against the white offspring. And of course, we deal with that in our numerous broadcasts, including Nanasom and the defeat of slavery. So when we deal with that ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion, we deal with it from that true historical perspective, that transcarnational perspective, and we clarify concepts. The nature of the divinities, the nature of the Supreme Being, the nature of the ancestresses and ancestors. There's much misinformation regarding the nature of Nyamewa and Nyame and Yonkumpon and Yonkunton and Obuade and Odomankoma and Tredriampong and the Abosom and the Nanano Nsamanfo, various aspects of the culture, people who have been infected on the continent with Christianity and Islam and Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and white culture in general, have corrupted their presentation of our ancestral religious practices because they have incorporated those corruptions as well. And then when they pass off information about the culture, it appears to be authentic, but in reality, it is corrupt. And of course, you have individuals in the Western Hemisphere as well who have been corrupted by white culture as well and seek to our ancestral religious expressions with nonsense such as monotheism and all kinds of other foolishness. So we give a proper understanding, proper clarification of these concepts, the nature of our cosmology, the nature of the Supreme Being, the deities and the ancestral spirits, and their relationship to us. So that's what we deal with on Joda on Monday night. On Awukuda, Akwada Wednesday nights, we have Ngg Wr Marketplace. So we showcase businesses, organizations, and institutions in our community for serving the community in a positive capacity, but also maintain their ancestral religious values in their service and allow those values to inform their service to the community. So we have individuals come on. We also, as well, in addition to that, we also have certain shows where we detail the philosophical foundation for approaching business and ancestral economics in a specific fashion. That philosophical component, so we understand the means by which we approach economic development, but we also, of course, have individuals come on and talk about their businesses, organizations, and institutions. In that vein, what we have done is published our Okom economic development model. We're going to put the link in the chat room right now for that. So when you go to our Okom economic development model page, first you will see the document, Okom economic development model. You can download that document. It's a free download, of course. And then we also did a 4-part series on Blog Talk. Those videos are saved on that page as well, where we dissect that Okom economic development model and show how it impacts every aspect of our lives and its various applications. The Okom economic development model is a model of economic development rooted in Afurakani, Afurakaidi, ancestral religious values. So we deal with our nature, deal with our identity as Afurakani, Afurakaidi people, and once we embrace that reality, based on that identity, we are forged as an Afurakani, Afurakaidi people, as a collective in the Western Hemisphere, with our unique experiences and the blending of our families and the blending of our ancestral blood circles, but at the same time maintaining our distinct Afurakani, Afurakaidi ethnicities across the board, for working interdependently upon one another. Once we embrace that reality, then all we need is a strategy to harness our purchasing power so that we can engage in economic activity that is harmonious, that can satisfy and meet all of our needs. What we have introduced in the Okom economic development model is the strategy which we call starve the beast and feed the pride. That simply means that on a weekly basis and even on a daily basis, you make an assessment to determine what funds you would have potentially wasted with the whites and their offspring at their businesses, organizations, and institutions, and you starve the beast and feed the pride. You reallocate those funds away from those white businesses and direct them towards the business, organization, or institution of the week. We have an Okom economic development model, business, organization, or institution of the week. We are targeting one business, organization, or institution, of course, Afurakani, Afurakaini per week for 52 weeks. We have, over the past 21 weeks, we have supported a number of businesses, organizations, and institutions as an NHOMA, as a community. We are targeting one per week for optimal capital infusion. So that means that, for example, if you typically would have spent over the course of 1 week, $5 at Starbucks, or $5 at CVS, or $5 at Walmart, of course, receiving products that in reality are deleterious to your actual health, which you really don't need. You starve the beast and feed the pride. You take that $15 you would have wasted with the white snare offspring, you starve that white beast and feed the pride. You direct that $15 to the business, organization, or institution of the week. Whether you make a donation to their organization, whether it's an educational organization or whatever it is, or a business, products, services, whether you're making a donation or you're purchasing and services and or services, you're starving the beast and feeding the pride. That $15 infusion is, of course, a benefit to the business, organization, or institution. If 1,000 of our people did that over the course of a week, that's a $15,000 infusion of capital for that Black business, so they can stay open, so they can hire within the community, so they can expand their services to us as a community and serve us at a greater capacity while employing our people at the same time, while meeting our needs at the same time. We have over $1 trillion moving through our hands over the course of a year. We waste about 94+% of that $1 trillion with the whites and their offspring, instead of spending 5% or 6% with our own businesses and 95% with the whites and their offspring, our enemies. We need to be reversing those numbers. Instead of giving them $950+ billion a year, we need to be taking billions of those dollars and simply spending that money at Black business. They say there are about 2 million Black people who are unemployed at this point. There are approximately 2 million Black businesses in the community in North America, in the United States. If each one of those 2 million Black businesses hired one person, then the unemployment problem would be taken care of overnight. That can easily take place simply by us starving the beast and feeding the pride. Every time we make a purchase, every time we spend money, can we spend that money with a Black business? Should we even be spending that money? What are we wasting our money on for products and services with our enemies that are actually destructive for us and supporting our enemies? Every time we spend money with our enemies, we are financing our own oppression. So we starve the beast and feed the pride. So when you look on the Oklahoma Economic Development page, you'll see the list of businesses, you'll see their website, and then you also see links to the broadcast interviews that they did with us on the Blog Talk Radio channel, where they sat with us for 2 hours. They talked about their business, organization, institution, their philosophy behind their service to the community, and how their ancestral religious values have informed and continue to inform their service to the community in a harmonious fashion. So all of that information is on the Oklahoma Economic Development page, and then we're going to post later tonight. We're going to confirm and post the business of the week for this week later tonight. So check that page out. So that's what we do on Wednesday nights, Ngg Wr Marketplace Day. So tonight is ODWIRA, purification, and what we do with this particular broadcast, ODWIRA means purification in the Akan language. Jira is the verb meaning to purify. ODWIRA is the noun meaning purification. It also means a celebration of purification. For example, many Akan folk celebrate the New Year around August or September, October, in that area. And the New Year celebration is called ODWIRA, meaning purification. However, the term is not simply an Akan term. Jira, if you look in the language of ancient Kemet and Khanat, ancient Egypt and Nubia, and we've posted this on our Odwirafo page and the article of the same name, Odwirafo, you see that in the Medutu, in the hieroglyphs, the term Jira means purification. It also means to celebrate a ceremony of purification. That's all the whites in our offspring can say about that term, that it means purification, to purify, and it also means to celebrate a ceremony of purification. Of course, because we still practice this living culture, we understand why that ancient term Jida means purification and what that celebration of purification is. It is our New Year's celebration. And just as it's written in the Medusa, the hieroglyphs saying that Jida, purification, and a celebration of purification, we have continued that practice to this day. Every year at the same time, 7-day Jida celebration of purification, the beginning of a new cycle, the beginning of a new year. So this is what Jida is talking about. When we talk about purification, we always say that Jida, purification, operationalizes nanason, operationalizes Afurakani, Afurakaini, African ancestral religion. Ancestral religion, in essence, is the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. That means through ritual, we incorporate those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to incorporate in order to harmonize our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. And through ritual, we reject those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to reject in order to restore balance to our thoughts, intentions, and actions so that we can realign ourselves with divine order. So the expansive and contractive poles of ancestral religion and the catch-all term we use for ancestral religion or Afurakani, Afurakaini, African ancestral religion is Nanason, the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. Jida or Jida purification operationalizes Nanason. Purification operationalizes our practice of ritually incorporating law and ritually restoring balance. Our goal is always to align ourselves and realign ourselves with divine order in our thoughts, intentions, and actions every moment of every day, day to day, month to month, year to year, for our entire lifetimes into our ancestral life and back into our lifetimes in this world. So we're constantly seeking to align ourselves and realign ourselves in every thought, every intention, every action with divine order. That is our culture, the divine acceptance, the law or love of order, and the divine rejection or hatred, repulsion of disorder. That is our culture. That is our way of life. That is our amambre, the way of the nation, the acceptance, the divine acceptance of order and the divine rejection of disorder. And that expansive and contractive aspect of order manifests itself all throughout our cultural expression. So this is what we deal with on Jida: purification, purifying text, purifying concepts, purifying philosophy, purifying the knowledge of the nature of the Great Mother and the Great Father, the Supreme Being, the Creator and Creatress, who are grandchildren of the Supreme Being, the nature of the deities, the nature of the ancestresses and ancestors and their relationship to us, the nature of our ka, our soul, our divine consciousness, the nature of our ba and ba'et, our spirit, and that energetic link to the various forces in nature. What is our role in creation? Our divine function in creation is Afurakaini people. What is the nature of our enemies, the whites and their offspring, all of whom incarnate as spirits of disorder without exception and are our absolute enemies without exception, living and deceased. So we get into detail about that kind of information. Tonight, we are going to deal with a section from one of our books, our publications. We have 16 books that we have published to date. We have more books coming out very soon this summer. One of those books is ANIDAHO, which means awareness. And we're going to get into one of the specific sections in that publication. We put the link in the chat room, and we'll put that link back in there for those who missed that. And we'll put it in there right now. And for the people who joined on a little bit later, if you have a question or a comment, of course, on the phone line, you hit the number 1 so that we can see that your hand is raised. And of course, if you're in the chat room and you have a question or a comment, you must log in as a user in order to interact in the chat room. And you can sign up for a username quickly in Blog Talk if you do not have it. Okay, so we just put the link to the ANIDAHO awareness publication in the chat room. You can find that on our publications page on our website, Odwirafo.com, ODWIRA, F as in free, O.com. The NHOMA page, NHOMA. You'll see that on many pages on the website. You'll see the 16 books. You can, of course, the ebook versions of all of our books, we make those free books, free downloads, available to the community at all times. The softcover versions we do sell, and they range between $8 and $11. So, and we're going to get into some of that a little bit later in the show. We're having like a mini fundraiser tonight, and we're going to talk about our subscription, our monthly book subscription, which is an option that we've created for those who would like to participate in that monthly book subscription, the NHOMA monthly book subscription, where you can receive one book per month or 2 books per month. It's up to you, however many you want to receive. However long you want to receive, you can start it whenever you want to. You can stop it whenever you want to. And just for example, we have 16 books out. So if someone signed up and all it's simply doing is making a donation recurrent on our website, and once it's recurrent through PayPal, PayPal will automatically make a deduction every month on the same date. You can stop that whenever you want to by simply clicking cancel when it's done. If you make a $15 donation that's recurrent, then we have 16 books out. So every month on the same date, we will send out one of our books to you. That's like the minimum. Some people may want to get 2 books per month. And for the next 8 months, at least, you get 2 books per month for 8 months, therefore going through the whole 16 books. So that's a way to pace your learning as well as support the organization at a minimal cost of $15 a month. So we're going to get into that a little bit later in the broadcast. When you go to the page, you'll see the ANIDAHO book. And you'll see that it's 4 specific articles that we have compiled into one volume. We published these articles back in 2013, so-called 2013. Of course, we don't date ourselves based on a fictional cartoon character, Jesus, who never existed 2013 years ago. We base our calendar on an actual cycle. So we are in the midst of a 26,000-year cycle, hence the years beginning with 13,000. So 13,015, we published these articles in 13,013, so-called 2013. And then eventually we compiled them all into one volume and published them all as one volume. So when you look at the 4 different articles, and they all are dealing with ANIDAHO, or awareness, a specific aspect of our awareness. And if you look at the front cover of the book, you see the first one is note on the term Ngg Wr, or Ngg Wr in Kamit. Ngg Wr is not nigger, part 1. People have looked in the due to the hieroglyphs of ancient Kemet, saw the term Ngg Wr. They thought it was Ngg Wr or Ngg Wr or Ngg Wr, and they started saying, well, nigger is an ancient Kemetic term that means God, which is pure stupidity. So we show the actual Medutu that they were looking at and show that it actually says Gngn Wr. Sometimes it's written Ngg Wr. It's not Ngg Wr or nigger. So we go into detail about that to prove that and show the actual cosmology of these divinities that the texts are talking about. Amen and Amenet, the great father and the great mother, sometimes referred to in their praise names as Ngg Wr, the great Ganga, and Ngg Wr, the great Ganga. Animal totems are the sacred goose and gander. The goose and gander is called Ga or Ganga because the sound that the goose, the sound that the gander makes when they are cackling is Ga, Ga. And when you hear them, and we played an actual video of them, you hear the geese saying Ga, Ga when they're about to mate, and therefore our people refer to those birds as Ga birds or Ga, Ga birds because that is the sound that they make. And that is the title of Amen and Amenet, when they're the 2 sacred primordial birds, the goose and the gander, in the pre-creation state, in the darkness, the black substance of space before anything is created. They begin to unite, to mate, they cackle, send out those sound vibrations, and therefore the great Ganga or great Nganga and Ngng begin to cackle thin sound vibrations to begin to move matter and create the universe. So we go into detail about that cosmology. Part 2, it says the origin of the term God, and of course, the term God in English and Proto-European language roots, so-called roots, actually go back to the term Ganga, a title of Amen, and Gangayet, a title of Aminet. We go into detail about that to further prove that point. And then we also show the origin of the term Negro, which of course is corrupted into nigger and nigga and everything else. We show the actual origin of those terms from ancient Kemet as well. The root, of course, in Proto-Indo-European languages is necro, meaning that afflicted and negative and weak and perverse and everything else. That same term you'll find in ancient Kemet, necro, meaning foes or enemies who are crushed or beaten to death. We've always used that term, necro, which became neck and necker and negra and negro, and in Latin and negro and everything else. That's always been a derogatory term. That is a term that the whites and offspring learned from our people. They continue to use that term as a derogatory term. So when Negro becomes Negra, Nigra, Nigra, Nigger, and Nigga, and everything else, by the way, people are enunciating the term and mispronouncing the term, it has nothing to do with anything sacred or divine or anything else. So some people thought Ngg Wr was Ngg Wr. That's nonsense. Some people believe that Naga, coming from India, is the origin of the term nigger, which is totally inaccurate, totally ridiculous. So one of these publications, we deal with that in detail. The name, a title of the creator, Ra. One of his titles is Ra Aka. Ra Aka becomes Raka, Daka, Nanka, and Nanga in India, Nanka in Akan, and Danga in Akan as well. It came from Ra-Ka, a title of Ra in ancient Kemet, from the book of the Cow of Heaven. You can see the Medut, and we show the Medutu right there in the text. So Ra-Aka becoming Da-Ka, and Dan-Ka, and Nanka, and Naga. Ra-Aka is not the word nigger. That's idiotic. So we proved that in that particular article. But the article we're going to deal with tonight, the specific one, and when we did our broadcast on this book, we did a specific broadcast where we analyzed the information in this book. When we dealt with this particular section that we're going to deal with more in detail tonight, we didn't go into great detail when we analyzed it on the previous broadcast because it wasn't really as necessary. We just wanted to cover the entire book, so we didn't go into every detail. But because this specific article and the ramifications of it is pretty great with regard to the community, and some people, promoting this misinformation in the community consistently, we want to go into detail about this specific article out of the 4 in the book tonight. And of course, that article is called NEHESU-NEGUS-NKOSO. Negus is not nigger. So some people will take the title Negus or Nagas, Ngas, from Ethiopia, the Amharic language, referencing royalty, king, and so forth. And they will say Negus or Naga is really negas and niggas, and nigger means God, or nigger means king. Pure stupidity. Absolutely idiotic and absolutely inaccurate. Some of our people just have the vestiges of that pathology. We were tortured and forced into a mindset of inferiority, and some of our people embraced that mindset of inferiority because of torture during enslavement and torture after enslavement, continuous torture up until this very moment. Not only forcing people to believe that the God of the universe is a white male, which is insane, some white homosexual crackling Jesus hanging on a cross and so forth, or embracing some fictional cartoon character, white Arab who never existed, Muhammad, or any of the characters in the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Moses, Aaron, Solomon, Sheba, Menelik, all of these characters are fictional cartoon characters, Jesus, Esau, no matter what title you give him, Yeshua ben Pandera, and so forth. Buddha, Brahmin, the Devas and Devis. These are fictional cartoon characters who never existed of any race or in any form. Yahweh, Allah, all of them, fiction. That nonsense has been forced upon us. And some of our people have been traumatized by that, devastated by that. And when the whites and their offspring are torturing you on a plantation and whipping you on a plantation and branding you on a plantation and raping and murdering our people, and then when they call you nigger and you embrace that because you fear not answering to that, and then you continue to fear the whites and their offspring because you see them as superior and you feel yourself to be inadequate, then when you come out of that on the surface, yet you still go back to trying to figure out a way to continue to call yourself nigger, trying to manufacture some pseudo-cosmology so that you can continue to call yourself nigger. The only reason our people do that is because they are suffering from that pathology. They have a deeply seated sense and deeply seated sense of self-hatred, self-loathing that was programmed in us through torture. And just like a child that gets tortured by an adult, abused by an adult, and they're being whipped and tortured on a daily basis and nightly basis and so forth, at some point they begin to submit to their torturer. And whatever suggestions, whatever commands come from the torturer, they want to oblige the torturer to try to get into the torturer's good graces. And whatever they call them, they take on that title and say, yes, master, that this is what, yes, that's what my name is. And they act like they're proud of it. They wear it as a badge. Because if they can act proud of the name that the slave master or the torturer gave them, then in their mind it's more likely that there'll be less torture coming their way. If they're obedient because they still fear the master and fear the torturer, if they're obedient to the highest degree, maximum degree possible, then maybe the torturer will show them some favor and not torture them as much. So if they call you nigger, then you will take on that title and say, yes, I'm a nigger. Yes, master, see, I'm calling myself that. Aren't you proud of me? And if somebody comes along and tells you you're not a nigger, somebody on the plantation says, let's escape, let's kill the master, you will wage war against that Aakhuamuman or Aakhuamuman person for going against your quote-unquote master. Why? Because you fear the master so much that he may torture you even to a greater extent, that you will want to show the master, hey, I will fight for you. I will take on this name. I will fight for you. I'll take out one of my own people just so you can pat me on the head and say, good boy, good girl, and so forth. Our people still have that pathology. So they are still seeking ways to call themselves nigger. So they would try to call themselves naga. They would try to call themselves negas and try to associate it with the nigger as they mean God and Kundalini energy, pure stupidity, absolute stupidity. But it's rooted in that deep sense of inferiority. So it doesn't matter what such individuals say on the outside. They may appear to be black nationalists and Pan-Africanists and black power and everything else. All of that is absolutely irrelevant. The reality is they betray themselves when they continue to utilize these terms. Because when they're given the proper information, and we're the first to give the actual etymological origin, for example, of the term God, tracing it back to the titles of Amen and Amenet. No black scholar nor white scholar have ever produced those proper etymologies in the cosmology that undergirds them. No white scholar or black scholar has given the proper origin of the term NEHESU or Negus, as we're going to do tonight. No scholar has given the proper term of the origin of the term naga, nor of the term in the language Ngng Wr and so forth, as well as niger and so forth. So we go into detail about all that, as well as negro, tracing it back to not only the Proto-Indo-European so-called root necro, but then going back to ancient Kemet and Nekal with the same root. So in these 4 articles, we brought forth information that was heretofore unknown, not properly analyzed. We put the information out so you can investigate it yourself, investigate those sources for yourself, and verify the information for yourself. And of course, our people have done that. So when this proper information is given to individuals, and they see it and they recognize that it's real, yet they still seek to figure out a way to continue to call themselves nigger. Now you know you're dealing with somebody who is emotionally and spiritually unstable. And at that point, it's no need to engage in any form of argument. When you've worked in the field of mental health and you know people are behaviorally imbalanced, you don't engage in arguments with individuals who have mental imbalances, emotional imbalances, behavioral imbalances. You simply give them what they need, and when they're ready to receive that, then they will take it. But you don't argue with somebody with schizophrenia. You don't get into debates with them. You don't argue with somebody who has some form of neurosis or psychosis. You don't get into debates because you recognize that what they are saying and how they are acting is a manifestation of their instability. And we have a number of individuals who are unstable emotionally and mentally in our community as a result of this torture, of this trauma. And it manifests in various ways. Some people do drugs. Some people poison themselves with drugs. Some people overeat and so forth to compensate for the pain that they suffer on a daily basis as a result of racism. Some people lash out and are abusive to themselves and abusive to their mates and abusive to children and abusive to other individuals and so forth. Other individuals try to wrap themselves in the cloak of culture, in the cloak of revolution, in the cloak of Black power, in the cloak of Pan-Africanism, in the cloak of Black nationalism and so forth. But in reality, they still worship the white snare offspring. They still name themselves after the white snare offspring in various ways, whether they're English names, Arabic names, Asian names and so forth, or taking on foolish titles like Naga, Negas, and everything else, and so forth. So there's a psychological foundation, a spiritual discordance that's manifest in this kind of activity. So we must understand that first. And then, therefore, when you see people who call themselves scholars and spiritualists and high priests and elders and master teachers and all other nonsense, made-up titles, constantly misinforming our people, you recognize they are operating either under that same rubric of mental and emotional instability, or they are simply agents of the white snare offspring deliberately misinforming our people. Either way, it's not good for our people. So we need to address that first. And once people have a firm understanding of why people are acting the way they're acting, even though on the surface they appear to be normal and so forth, now you understand it's no different than people straightening out their hair, lightening their skin, changing the color of their eyes with contacts and so forth. This is all a result of torture and a deeply seated sense of inferiority that they are seeking to cloak. So let's get into the information to prove this information with regard to Negus, NEHESU-NEGUS-NKOSO, and so forth. And we take it not simply linguistically, but in connection with that, cosmologically. We showed the linguistic, of course, but what is the cosmology that gave birth to these terms? And once you understand the cosmology and the deities connected to this cosmology that gave birth to these terms, then you see how they came into being, how they manifested. And then you have a full understanding of these words. So the words in our ancestral languages, we don't just have one word that's a sacred word of power, a mantra and so forth. Our languages are sacred from the gate. All of the words in Afurakani, Afurakaitni languages have mantric vowels. So let's get into this particular section, and we're gonna get to page, it will be page 30, starting on page 31 is the cover of that particular article, and the information begins on page 32. Starting on page 32, the first thing we talk about, of course, the title is NEHESU-NEGUS-NKOSO. Negus is not nigger. And we show the Medusa for the term Nkoso in the language of ancient Kemet. So first we start talking about, as we said earlier, the Akan people, and we have an article called Akan, the people of Khanit. And we show in that article, of course, that the Akan people, as well as others, but the Akan people migrated from ancient Khanat. We began in ancient Khanat, a title of ancient Nubia. And we show the linguistics for that, Khan meaning first and foremost in the Akan language, Khan also meaning to count, to calculate, to reckon. And with the first and foremost people, a component part of the first people in creation, Khan, and also the first people to count, calculate, or reckon, Khan. So those two roots, Khan meaning first or foremost from the beginning, and Khan meaning to calculate, to count, to reckon, dealing with the foundation of civilization being the measurement, understanding the regulation of all things in creation, measuring patterns and movements and that deals with ecology and agriculture, engineering, mathematics, and everything else. So those two roots in the Akan language defining the people, Khan meaning first and foremost, Khan meaning to count, to calculate, to reckon, can be found in the language of ancient Kemet and Khanat. Khan meaning first, foremost, from the beginning. Khan also meaning to count, to calculate, to reckon. But then Khan also meaning a name of the land itself, the Khan land, the Khanat land, the people being the Khanat people or Khanit people. And just as we call ourselves the Khanit people, we call ourselves Akani today. Akani means one Akan person. Akanfo means a group of Akan people. So we go into detail about that in that first couple of paragraphs. And the reason we lay that out is because we can begin to understand the cosmology through the lens of the people who gave birth to the cosmology. So we show the Medutu for Khanti or Khaniti, dwellers in the south, Nubian. The Medutu for that. That is the term Khanit or Akani. In the Akan language, you'll find it as Khanit or Khanitu, plural, the Akani people, the Nubi. Now, there's a unique feature of Akan culture called the Kradin concept. The term Kradin is composed of Kra or Kra, which means soul, divine consciousness, often with the prefix of Okra, male, Okra, female. Kra or Kra, the soul, divine consciousness, is the same as the Ka and the Kaet in ancient Kemet, the soul, the divine consciousness, the fourth in nature that dwells in your head region, assigned to you by the Supreme Being pre-incarnation. This is a deity, your own personal divinity that dwells in your head region. It manifests in your life, this divinity, a male divinity if you are male, a female divinity if you are female, that dwells with you and guides you throughout the course of your life. That force in nature, that deity, that God is dwelling in the head region, that divinity will pull you in your head region. You'll feel strong pull in your head region towards thoughts, intentions, and actions that are in harmony with order. And you'll feel a strong repulsion in your head region, pressure. And you're about to engage in thoughts, intentions, and actions that are disorderly, that are out of harmony with divine order. That's how it's very often experienced, this divinity dwelling in your head region, this force in nature that dwells with you. Just like you have a smaller vehicle, a body within your body that's in the head region, the brain, that regulates all systems in the body. In your spirit body, in the head region of the spirit body, there's a smaller, the Kayat, the Krawa, the soul, divine consciousness. And Akan is called Ka or Kara, and it's the same, of course, same term. Now, so that's what the Kra is. The term Din means name. So the Ka Din or Kra Din means the soul name or the soul's name. Of course, Din in ancient Kemet means name as well. So the same terms in Akan are the same terms in ancient Kemet because our language is directly derived from our ancestral language. Now, the soul name or the soul's name. In Akan culture, we recognize that there are abosom, deities, that govern the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies, which govern the Nawotwe, the 7-day inclusive week. So the 7 days of the week, the names of the 7 days are based on the abosom, the deity, the goddesses and gods who govern the celestial body, and hence the day. When an Akan person is born, the day upon which he or she is born is an indicator of which abosom, deity, he or she was assigned to in the spirit realm prior to birth. He or she thus takes on a Kradin, a soul name reflective of the abosom who governs the day, as well as his or her Okra or Krawa soul. For example, the day called Benada is Tuesday. In Akan, it is the day da of the abosom Benna. So it is Benna da, the day da of Benna, the abosom, the deity, the god Benna. The Ntoro, the divinity, the Vodou, the Orisha, the force in nature called Benna. And when we talk about the 7-day week, for example, just to reference the 7-day week that is used all across the world. It was learned from our ancestresses and ancestors in ancient Africa, and the so-called Near East when we migrated there. The whites in our spring did not come up with a 7-day week. Our people have been using this 7-day week for thousands of years. Each one of the days is governed by the sun, the moon, or one of the planets, and the spirits that animate the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies, they govern that day of the week. And therefore, each day of the week has its own solar, lunar, and planetary body, and the spirits that animate them, they give their names to the days of the week. So we say, for example, Ben-Nada is Tuesday. It is the day of the Abosom, the god, the force of nature, Benna. In Kemet, the Abosom, the deity Benna, is called Heru Bedeti, Heru Bedet, Heru Bedat, Heru Bedet, Heru Benna. Benna in Akan, Heru Bedat in ancient Kemet. Same name, same divinity. He is called Ogun in the Yoruba tradition. Ogu in the Vodun tradition. Same divinity. Males born on Ben-Nada therefore automatically receive the name Kwa Benna, meaning that they are a subject, Kwa, or Akwa, of the Abosom Benna. This means that this child's Okra, his soul, is aligned with and governed by this divine force in creation. This is why he was sent into the world and born on Ben-Nada Tuesday, because his spirit, when he was an ancestor in the ancestral realm and he was about to be sent into a womb to reincarnate into the world, to become a child, a baby once again, before that ancestral spirit was sent into the womb, we are drawn up as ancestresses and ancestors to Ngg Wr, Ngg the great mother and great father. They assign a divinity to govern us throughout the course of our lives, and that divinity comes directly to our spirit and takes up residence in our head region and attaches itself to our head region. And now we are spirits with a soul, a divine consciousness dwelling in the head region. And then we can be sent ultimately into a womb to reincarnate and be reborn into the world once again. So, somebody who was born on Ben-Nada, that simply means that the Abosom Benna is the force in nature that was directed to govern this spirit throughout the course of their lives. And because this force in nature, the great divinity Benna, who animates the planet Benna or Mars, and governs the divine immune system in the great divine body of creation. Just like your immune system governs the immune functions in your body, in the great divine body of Amenet and Amen, the Supreme Being, they have an immune system, and that is the domain of the force in nature, Benna. He governs that immune system. Of course, in our solar system, his transmitting force, his relay station of energy is the planet Benna. That is a relay station to transmit energy to our planet. Every celestial body is simply a center of resonance for the energy of the forces in creation, invisible spiritual forces that animate creation. Just like you see magnetism, you don't see the force, but you understand and recognize its effects. It's an invisible force, but we understand magnetism is real, electromagnetism and so forth. The spiritual force that animates you. You are a spirit. People don't see you're a spirit, but they see the effects as your spirit animates your physical body. The spirits of the Abosom animate the suns, the moons, the stars, the planets, the rivers, the oceans, the black substance of space, the atmosphere, and so forth, thunder and lightning and fire and so forth. And the planet Benna is simply a physical vessel for the spiritual force, Benna. So a child born on Ben-Nada simply means he was assigned to Benna pre-incarnation, and Benna makes sure that that child comes out of the womb on Ben-Nada or Tuesday, the day of Benna, so that the community knows, hey, he was assigned to me pre-incarnation. So his name is automatically, his soul's name is Kwa Benna. He's a servant of Benna. Now, in our Akan culture, a female Abosom, the female Abosom, the female divinity governing Ptah or Friday, is the Abosom Afi or Afia, also called Afua. She is the female Abosom who animates the planet Afi. The planet Afi is called Venus in English. Again, that planet itself is a physical orb, the spiritual force that animates that physical orb, the major female spiritual force, the abosom, the goddess Afi, as she's called in the Akan tradition. Now, her title, Afi, in Akan is from the root Fi. It's derived from one of her descriptive titles in Kamit, which is Fai. That is the title of Het Heru in Kamit. Het Heru often misnomered Hathor. Afi, Het Heru called Oshun in Yoruba. And again, in ancient Kamit, her major title was Het Heru. One of her descriptive titles is Fai. In the Akan language, and we'll see later in the text, one of her titles in Akan is Chetche, and that comes from Tether, but then her major descriptive title is Afi, which comes from Fai. So we have both names in both expressions of culture. So Afi, called Het Heru, she's called Oshun in the Yoruba tradition. She is the Obosom, the divinity of beauty, song, art, dance, music, adornment, creativity, innovation, exploration, adventure, etc. She governs the sensual attraction, which is the precursor to procreative activity, sexual activity, and that which replenishes its harmony. And that's what pleasure is. And so when they talk about her being the force of nature governing pleasure, if you want to be technical, she governs the sensual attraction, that magnetism, sensual attraction, which is the precursor to procreative activity or sexual activity. The magnetism between the Aakhuamuman male and Aakhuamuman female is the precursor to procreative activity or sexual activity. She governs that sensual attraction. That is the precursor. And that which replenishes its harmony. So the replenishment of that sensual attraction is the replenishment of that harmony, and that manifests as pleasure. This is the foundation of creativity, procreativity, and thus she governs various expressions of creativity, whether it's song, dance, beauty, art, music, scientific innovations and exploration and adventure and so forth. These are manifestations of creativity, bringing out things and manifesting things that never existed before in a different harmonious way. So, physiologically, Afi governs the reproductive system in the Aakhuamuman or African body, the fallopian tubes in the female, the epididymis in the male, as well as the divine reproductive system in creation, the divine body of Aminet and Amen. So just as we talked about, the immune system is the shrine within your body for Benna, force in nature that deals with enforcement of divine order and justice and so forth. The immune function in creation operate through your immune system. Your immune system is the physical shrine for the spiritual force in the great divine body of Supreme Being. The great immune system is Benna. That is the force in creation that regulates that system. The reproductive system in the Aakhuamuman body, that aspect of it dealing with the fallopian tubes of the female and the epididymis of the male, that is the physical shrine of Afi in the body. She's, of course, the great reproductive system, the force in creation that governs creativity and procreativity. And that, of course, manifests with us, with it through our reproductive organs on the lower aspect of our being and the higher aspect of our being, from the head up, the neck up, the gestation of ideas in the womb of the mind. So when you deal with procreativity, the gestation of the union of the sperm and ovum, the zygote, the gestation of that, those disparate elements in the womb to create a harmonious fusion and the development of something beautiful, a child. Well, in the mind, the gestation of different colors and thoughts and ideas and songs and notes and everything, when you pull them together in a harmonious fashion and gestate them in your mind and your imagination in a creative fashion, then you're giving birth to something that never existed before. And when it manifests harmony, that's what beauty is, a manifestation of harmony, a reflection of divine order. This is what's taking place. So you have the capacity to gestate in the mind, the womb of the mind, just like a woman can gestate in the womb physically, in the lower part of the being. then we're talking about not lower in the sense of negative, but lower in the sense of beneath the head region. The head region is the heavenly realm. From the neck down is the earthly realm and so forth. So, in Akan culture, all of the Akradin soul names have mrane, or praise names, associated with them, which are expressive of different aspects of the abosom, as well as the nature of the okra, the soul of the person who is born under that abosom, on that abosom's day. Each one of the divinities that governs the days, they have praise names, quote unquote nicknames. We say mrane, or praise name. It's like you can have your regular name, but then you have a nickname. If you're, doing something great, they'll call you Ur, the great one, or Odwirafo, the great one, because you're doing something great. That's a praise name for you. All right, so all of the abosom have praise names based on their attributes. And children of those abosom born on their day and who carry their energy, they have the same mrane, the same praise name. So each divinity that governs the 7 days of the week, they animate the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the days of the week. Each one of them have their own praise names, so-called nicknames as well. One of the mrane, or praise names for a fida, or Friday-born female, is Nkoso. This is also an mrane, or praise name for Afi, the goddess Afi herself. So because the goddess Afi, the abosom Afi, Heru, has the praise name Nkoso, then anybody born on her day, any female born on her day, for example, will be called Afia or Afua, but then they'll also be called Nkoso. That's a praise name that you can attach to them because of her nature and the nature of that energy. Nkoso, what does that mean? It references that which is splendid, grand, gorgeous, brilliantly adorned, etc. Talking about beauty and so forth. It also references progress, furthering, success, prosperity. We're talking about Nkoso. When you break down the term Nkoso, the verb ko means to go, while so means up, above, and also upon. The mrane Nkoso thus references the nature of the energy complex of Afi and her children who, quote unquote, go above, upon, and beyond. They are adventurous, creative, innovative, artistic, wanderers, explorers, progressive in the natural sense, prosperous, reproductive, furthering of the clan, people, and progeny. So when you go above and beyond, you begin to create and innovate things that never existed before. That's dealing with creativity. Ko, so. So ko, go, so, above, up, upon, and beyond. So this is why I'm talking about splendid and grand and gorgeous and brilliantly adorned. Dealing with things that never existed before in a creative and harmonious fashion, manifesting beauty and exploring and adventurous and wondrous and everything else. And that's what makes someone prosperous and reproductive and furthering of the clan and so forth, and the people and the progeny. The name vocalized as Nkoso as a title of Afi in Akan is the same title of Heru, who is called Khanit and Kamit. It is spelled Nhs in the Medutu, in the hieroglyphs. So we show the hieroglyphs. In the hieroglyphs, you don't see the vowels placed. You see the consonants placed in this particular instance. So it's NHS put together. And the whites in Alice Springs didn't know how to pronounce NHS. So they would stick different vowels between the consonants, Nehes and Nahas and Nhos and Nehes. They didn't know what it was. They just knew they could see the N, H, and S, but they weren't sure of how to vocalize. We have the vocalization because we still use the term. It is a title of Afi, who is Het Heru. One of her praise names is Nkoso. Now we show the Medutu, a title of Het Heru in ancient Kemet, NHS, and it says next to the Medutu, a title of the Sudani Hathor, meaning a title of the Sudan or Nubian aspect or form or expression of Het Heru. Now, it also says to mutter incantation, to be restless, to kick out with the legs, to wake up, to rouse oneself. Now we're going to get into the actual pronunciation and show the connection to negus. The term NHS, Nehes, what some people believe, or Nahas or Nhos, Nhes, they didn't know how to pronounce it. Spelled Nehes, Nehes by Egyptologists, because of uncertainty about the vocalization, meaning to be restless, to rouse oneself. Is an exact description of an Afua, a child of Afi, also called Nkoso in Akan culture. Children of Afi are said to be restless, wanderers, easily aroused, creatively, artistically, or procreatively, sexually aroused, and able to arouse or inspire others through art, song, dance, creativity, sensuality. So that in the Medutu, where you see the Nhos or Nhos, meaning to be restless, to kick out with the legs, to wake up, to rouse oneself, that is the Nkoso from the Akan, still promoted in the Akan and pronounced in the Akan as the title of Afi or Ederu, the same term in ancient Kemet, a title of the Sudani Hathor or the Nubian manifestation of Ederu. Now, the N in the term Nkoso is a nasal prefix, meaning the same is true in the language of ancient Kemet and Khanit. The Sudani or the Nubian, quote unquote, meaning Khaniti, title of Ederu, is NHS, but in reality is NHOSO. And the Akani title of Ederu is still NKOSO. The root is KOSO. So when we say Nkoso, the root is koso. Just like we talked about the term ganga, meaning ga, the sound that the geese and gander make. And sometimes it's pronounced Nganga, meaning the ga, ga, bird, and so forth. Koso is called Nkoso. That N is a nasal prefix, but the root is koso. The root in Akan. In Akan is the vocalized version of Hos or Hoso from ancient Kemet. Also written HS or HESI by Egyptologists. When we show the Medutu here, we show the Coptic dialectical vocalization. Coptic, the late version of the language of Kemet, coming into usage about 2,000 years ago, the last spoken aspect of the language. The vocalization in Coptic, they place the A in between the H and the S sound, so it's Hos in Coptic. So not just Nehes, but NHS. In Coptic, they put the A in between the H and the S sound, so therefore we have a vocalization. The same vocalization, Hos, in Coptic, is retained in the Akan language of today as Hos, and it's pronounced with a little bit more harsh sound. So we show the Medutu for the root term Hos in ancient Kemet in various definitions, and they're all related. To praise, to commend, to honor, to do honor, to reward, to recompense, to remunerate, to sing, to recite laudatory writings, praises, Kos. Another version, to praise, to ascribe merit, to applaud, Kos. Kosu, praises, hymns of praise, songs, Kosu, one who is praised. Go further down, praise, approval, favor, reward, gift, act of grace, gratification. As you can see, favor, all these things related to Koso, talking about brilliantly and splendidly adorned and beautiful and all of that in Akan. The same thing here, worthy of praise, praised, adorned, beautiful, graceful, one to whom grace and favor has been shown, applauded, lauded, even the blessed deceased being Hos or Kosu, praised, he who praises, Kosi, the praised one, those who are to be praised and so forth, a personal decoration or mark of favor, praised and renowned and famous. To chant, sing, laudatory, repeat laudatory composition, Kos, to sing to the accompaniment of an instrument, song, chant, all of these different things with the term Kos. A chant, song, any rhythmical composition. Now, to sing to the harp, the harper, to sing to the hand, to sing whilst playing a musical instrument. Singers, musicians, musical entertainers. As you can see, the same term, harp, filled with praise and beauty and favor and applause and approbation and so forth. Now it's getting into singing, which is praise and beauty and manifestation of beauty, a rhythmical composition, chant, song, singing to the harp. As we said earlier, all these things are attributes of the deity Afi, the creative one dealing with song and dance and music and praise and beauty and everything else. And this is her title. This is her praise name. The root is Ka. Still reading from the Medusa. Singing to the heart. And then we talk about, it also has to do with to run, to rush against an attack, to advance. And then there's also another piece dealing with new milk, milk in general, milk supply, milk vessels, a number of those different things. So, and we're going to get into that. So all those definitions, of course, all of them are related cosmologically. As we can see, we say the root kos in ancient Kemet with the Coptic vocalization, hos become, and hosa in Coptic becomes in the Akan language a couple of thousand years later, hosa in the Akan language. References those who are creative, singers, entertainers, splendid, approved by the deity, lauded, celebrated, praised, honored, favored, decorated. These are all attributes of Afi and children of Afi. We also see the reference to the great divine cow of heaven who supplies the blessed with milk. That's one of the titles of Kos, Hosa, meaning milk, the great divine cow of heaven. Het Heru, as Fai, is the great divine cow and also the support of the western heaven. So we show an image of her as a cow, a great divine cow, and she's sticking her head out of the western mountain range of the Aminti. She is Het Heru as a divine cow. This image is from the Runu Pert Imheru, the so-called Book of Coming Forth by Day. She's called Fai, a goddess who supported the western quarter of heaven. So when you see her as the great divine cow sticking her head out of the mountain of the west, the western part of creation, and supporting the western part and so forth as the great divine cow, she's that great divine cow with the milk and so forth. We also recall that Het Heru heals the eyes of Heru with milk when they were torn out during this association is key. For Het Heru as a title means the house Het of Heru. Het Heru is the queen mother who nurtures, gestates the king in her womb, her Het or her house. Indeed, a title of Het Heru is Heri, meaning she who is above, leader, chieftainess, while the male counterpart is Heri, he who is above, chief, king. Het Heru is also called Nebit Pet, meaning chieftainess or mistress of the sky. She's also called Hinut Ntoro Nebu, the mistress or queen of heaven and queen of all of the deity. This is the foundation of the root Hos, meaning the one who is praised, renowned, blessed, etc., in reference to royalty. The ancient title of Het Heru, Nhosot, Nhosot, not Nehesu or not Nehesot, but Nhosot, vocalized in Akan as Nkoso, is the origin of the term Nagaso or Ngaso, Ngas, Nagas, and later pronounced Neges and Negus and Negasu, an Ethiopian title descriptive of royalty, as in to reign. This term was also used for Khanitu, Nubian Ethiopians by the Kamal in general, title that passed into the Amharic language, which comes later. Amharic is not the ancient language of the people of ancient Ethiopia. That's a so-called Semitic language. It comes later. The root language from which this term comes, Nhoso, which becomes Ngoso and Ngoso and Nagasu and Negesu and Neges later, the way they pronounce it in Amharic now. It comes from that ancient root before Amharic existed, before Giz existed. And it comes from this root. And it's taught dealing with praise and adornment and those who are praised and renowned and blessed because it has to do with royalty. And it's a title of Het Heru, the great queen mother, who gestates the king in her womb. And she's also called Heri, chief who is above chieftainess, leader, and so forth. Royalty. But then the Nubians themselves, the Khanitu themselves, were called NEHESU as well by the people of ancient Kemet. They just called them NEHESU in total. So it wasn't just a title of royalty for one person or one group of people. They called the entire group of Khanit people, Nubian people, NEHESU as well. So we show the Medutu for that. Nhasi, he of the Sudan, NEHESU, the Nubians and Sudani people, tribes in the Duat, the results, all of this, the friendlies, as they say in the Sudan and all of this, they have different ways, negro, negress, all that nonsense, the way they characterize it in these hieroglyphic dictionaries. The NEHESU, often written Nehesu, are vocalized as the Negesu, Nagasu, but it's from the NEHESU, but it's vocalized as Ngesu or Nagasu in Gi. Those who are first, foremost, from the land of the ancestresses and ancestors, the first land. The Negas and Negasi, Nagas, Nagasi, are the Nkasi or Nkosi, the first head, leader, governor, governess, etc. They are those who are praised, adorned. There's another relation there. We can show the exact same principle or concept at work with the term Nubia, just so we can show a parallel concept. Not only does the term mean the first, the foremost, those who are at the head, governor, governess, and therefore renowned and lauded, and titles of royalty, but also just governing the entire people themselves, being called by the same name. Well, let's look at the term Nubia, and the same concept exists. The term Nubia is derived from the root and the term Nub, in Kemet, meaning gold. Of course, the region called Nubit, later called Ombos, by the whites in their offspring, Nubit becomes corrupted into Nubia. And just like we talked about before, the term Sikh, meaning, the so-called Near East, became Sia and Asia or Asia, but it comes from Sikh in ancient Kemet. Nubit becomes corrupted into Nubia by the whites in their offspring. But the root term is Nub in Kemet, meaning gold, and thus the Nubitu, or the Nubians, are the golden people, adorned people, those who are worthy of praise, etc. This is the land of our ancestors and ancestors, the land from which we arrived and arose from the beginning. The people of ancient Kemet recognized that Nubia or Nubit, and of course Khanit, Paseti, and so forth, this was the land, the first land, the foremost land. That's why they called it Khanit, the Khanit land, first, foremost, from the beginning, the front land, the land of the south. It is the land of the ancestresses and ancestors. It is the sacred land, the land of gold, the new land, the golden land, that which is praised, that which is adorned, that which is beautiful, that which is worthy of praise. And the Nubit people are the golden people. They are ancestresses and ancestors. So the entire people were called by that title. So is the term NEHESU-NEGUS-NKOSO representative of those characteristics, as we saw, adorned and praised and lauded and so forth. So that parallel concept, the title of that which is praised and adorned and uplifted, governor and governess, royalty and so forth, NKOSO, is also the title for the whole people, the NKOSO, or quote-unquote Nubian. Then you look at the term Nub, meaning gold, beautiful, adorned, worthy of praise, and so forth. Then the people themselves, Nubitu, the golden people, the people who are worthy of praise, adorned, beautiful, and everything else. Because this is a shout out to our ancient ancestry as Nubitu people. We say, notice, however, that the Egyptologists attempt to denigrate the name for they desire to associate black and Afro-Kani with slave and negress and all of this other nonsense of the pejorative. Yet, even in their attempt to denigrate the character of the Afro-Kani people south of Kemet, the cosmology of the culture precludes them from doing so. There's a section in one of the texts where the whites and their offspring will try to associate the NHOSU, the so-called Nubians NHOSU, with masturbation as creation, coming into creation based on masturbation. And they'll say, well, of course, that's associated with the quote-unquote Negroes of the Sudan, the Nubians of the Sudan, the NEHESU of the Sudan, the NHOSU of Sudan. Of course, that has to do with their degenerate nature and has to do with masturbation. Of course, masturbation is degenerate and sexual deviance, but that's a practice of the whites and their offspring. That's what they are prolific at. So this is deliberately misrepresented by the whites and their offspring in order to associate our people with sexual deviance. However, the reference to masturbation is inaccurate. The abosom, the deity Atem in Kemet, speaks of having union with his clenched hand in order to create his children, Shu and Tafnut. The clenched hand he is speaking of is the abosom deity Osaset Nebet Hetepet. And this Osaset, not Oset, wife of Asar and mother of Heru, but this is Osaset Nebet Hetepet. She is called Osaset in Akan as well, Asase Afua in Akan. That Osaset becomes Asase in Akan, the earth mother, Asase Afua. She is a wife of Atem, who is also called the lady of the vulva, as well as the hand of the god. The vagina is regarded as a hand because of its function in the act of procreation. Just as an Afurakani man today will call his wife his right hand, so that we refer to the ancient goddess mother as the hand of the god. It demonstrates that the woman is an active participant in the procreative process, as opposed to being merely an empty passive vessel waiting for the male to fill her with his seed. The woman is magnetic, actively drawing the male to her. The vagina actively pulls the seed out of the male. That's the hand action. The ovum actively pulls or draws magnetically the sperm to itself. On every level, the woman is as equally active as the male in the process. She's not just an empty vessel to be filled up with the seed of the male. So, the notion of the Nkoso, so-called NEHESU-NEGUS-NKOSO, the Ethiopians, Nubians being associated with the hand of the god, is once again associating them with the original first procreative function of Het Heru, who also operates as the hand of the god. Het Heru is Nkoso. Written in the Mendutu, when you see in the Egyptological work, Nehesi, but it's Nhosu. And of course, Nkoso in Akan. As shown in our article on Afi, in Akan culture, Afi is called Cheche, the evening star. The title Cheche is the Akan variant of Het-Her in ancient Kemet. So she's called Het-Her in ancient Kemet. She's called Cheche in Akan. She's called Fait in ancient Kemet. She's called Afi in Akan. Same name, unchanged for thousands of years. She's called Nkosu in ancient Kemet. She's called Nkoso in Akan. While we can see the cosmological foundation for the term Nkosu in Akan, of course, Nkosu in Kemet and Akan, in association with the Nubians, Ethiopians, south of Kemet. And even before we get to this point, so as we can see, the root of the term koso, ko meaning to go, so meaning up, above, and beyond. So when someone goes beyond, ko, so, to go beyond, they're the ones who are creative, they're innovative, procreative, artistically creative, scientifically creative, and innovative, pulling things together in a harmonious fashion to create things that never existed before, pulling the male and female together in a harmonious fashion for procreative activity, pulling together sounds and notes and colors and shapes for artistic works, and pulling together different elements for scientific invention. creativity, expansion, exploration, adventurous. And when you manifest creativity, you pull together different things in a harmonious fashion, not in a disharmonious fashion, but you're pulling together disparate elements to manifest harmony, like pulling together the sperm and ovum to manifest the beauty of a child being born and so forth. That expansion, that creativity, that adventurousness, that rousing up and so forth, it manifests harmony and therefore beauty, which is a reflection of that harmony. So we're talking about, that's what koso is. The prefix, nasal prefix with the N is nkoso. And when you look at the H in ancient Kemet and the S, hos, and that's the root, hoso, the same hoso in Kemet is the koso in Akan. Why is it written with the K in Akan? Because if you put the nasal N in the language of ancient Kemet next to the H-O-S-O, hoso with the nasal N in front of it becomes hoso. And hoso becomes koso in Akan. Say the N and put an H right next to it. That NH together, when you say it with a, not nahoso, but hoso, sounds like the koso in Akan. It's pronounced with a heavier enunciation. So hoso from ancient Kemet, the title of Het Heru, hoso in Akan, the title of Cheche Het Heru Afi. And of course, the associations with royalty, chieftains, and everything else. This is where they derived that from Ng's later on. They carried those same definitions, and Nkoso becomes Ngosu and Nagasu and Negesu and Negus and so forth. Has nothing to do with the nigger. Koso is the word. Koso is the word. It's not nigger. That's ridiculous. And we prove that cosmologically. Now, let's go a little bit further. We're almost done with this piece. Let me make sure. If you have any questions or comments in the chat room, hit the number 1. And I'm sorry, if you're on the phone line and you have any questions or comments, hit the number 1. If you're in the chat room, of course, you can interact as long as you have logged in with the username. Okay, so we're going to take a call right quick before we finish that last section. Okay, Michio on the phone line, number 7071. You got a question or a comment?
Yes, Michio. This is Ama. I do have a 2-part question. The first part is when you, in the beginning, and as you've explained now with the word nigger and necro, I work in the medical field, and it often, and I know you even mentioned how we're, as Afrikanu, Afrikite, Newt, are often associated by the whites and their offspring in a negative capacity, where, they will try to say, necro means black, or I was even in a Moorish scene for one moment, and they saying, calling each other black means we're saying that we're dead. So where in the Medutu, is there anything in the Medutu where you will find a correlation between necro and black and nigger? That's the first part of my question. And then the second question would be the things that you described about, the attributes that you described about Afi, how does that compare when the child is born on Memenada and they are a Memenawa?
Okay. So let me get the, hold on one second. I'm gonna put a link in the chat room right quick for you and for everybody. And we have one of our books is More Means Dead. We did a whole book on the etymology of the term more, proving that the term more does come directly from ancient Kemet, and it means dead when we're talking about people physically dead, spiritually dead, but also socially dead, meaning a slave, a servant, afflicted, wretched, and so forth. So we prove that conclusively in that particular book. And we also address the origin of the term black as well in that text, because they talk about black meaning, also associated with bleach and talking about bleak and pale and everything else. We go into detail about all that. So, now, with regard to the first question, you were talking about the term negro, and of course, negro is associated with necro. If you go back in this particular book that we're dealing with tonight, the ANIDAHO book, and I'm going to find the page for you so you can go directly to the page. Give me a second. It is on page, and just so everybody can get to that so they can see the actual pieces themselves. So when we're talking about the Ngng Wr piece and so forth, and we talk about Niger and everything else, then we get into the origin of the term. First, we show the basic etymological origin that they always promote. You look in the etymological dictionaries, nigger, negro, necro, as well as the term night, all going back to Proto-Indo-European root nekut, neck, necros, going all the way back to neck and nekut. And that has to do with negro and necro and neg, negative, night. All of it has to do with darkness, negative, necro, night, death, and everything else, all those associations. Even the term deny with the root neg and everything else. And we show that in the Medusa. Nekan means to be lacking or walking. Nekot, foes crushed or beaten to death. Related terms, nekeb meaning to mourn, to be afflicted. Nekut, something crushed. Nekim, being to be afflicted, to mourn, to grieve, to lament, and so forth. Mourners, afflicted ones. Nekin, injury, affliction. Necker, to sift, like that which is crushed. Like the enemy's crushed into powder in the mummified body and so forth. To sift. So all of those things coming from the root neck. When they say nekut and neck in Proto-Indo-European languages being the root of negro and necro and night and so forth, coming from the root neck, meaning that which is negative or lacking or wanting or afflicted. You look at the term in ancient Kemet, and this is on page 24, 23, 24, 25. You'll find the Medusa for that nekan, to be lacking, neka, leg, lack, want, nekum, injury, affliction, nekot, foes, crushed or beaten to death. The related terms, necker, nuker, referencing sifting, dust, powder, which is what is sifted, are related to that which is crushed, beaten, or pounded. This is what happens in a negative sense, the body corpse of a foe, in Afurakani culture. In a positive sense, we do not crush, pound, or cremate the body of the deceased. We engage in the embalming and mummification process to preserve the body as an ancestral shrine of the departed ancestors or ancestors. It is only in the negative sense that the body is treated otherwise, hence the related terms nekim, nekeb, referencing mourning, afflicted, grieving, because it's been necker, it's been crushed like powder, crushed and beaten down and sifted and so forth. And then the foes who are crushed or beaten to death are the neku, and that's the root of neku, meaning negro and so forth in English. So all of that between pages 22 and 25 in this book, ANIDAHO, showing that origin of the term negro there. And then we show nekah next to the term nigga, foes crushed or beaten to death, and we show the Medusa for that on page 26. So now for that note, did that answer the question as far as the Negro piece?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now the second, I'm just looking right through. I want to find the exact page so I can take everybody to the exact page. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up, for everybody who's in the chat room and so forth, the book More Means Dead. I just want to pull up this exact page so you can get the citation real quick. And the page number. Okay. That will be on page 20. Okay, page 21. So page 21 in the book More Means Dead. Now, we had been addressing different things. We showed those 7, like 7 different definitions or more in European languages and so forth, going back to those Proto-Indo-European roots. All 7 definitions with the exact same meaning exist in the Medutu and ancient Kemet, and they're all related to death, deceased, afflicted, and everything else. So we proved that in that first part. So we get to page 20, and then we start talking about our identity, and we talk about briefly the terms Afuraka, Afuraika. Of course, we published our book, Afuraka, Afuraika, the origin of the term Africa. So we go into quickly detail about that, but we reference the book because we're trying to make a further point. So the term Afu means house, but it also means flesh. Ra is the creator, Ra'ed is the creatress. When they're moving through matter, the spirit of Ra and the spirit of Ra'ed, when they move through matter, when they move through the Afu, the flesh, the matter, then they become known as a praise name. It's Afu Ra and Afu Ra'ed. That just simply means Ra moving through Afu, Ra moving through matter, whether it's your flesh or moving through the earth or whatever. Afu Ra'ed, same thing. When they move through the first Kayat, the first raised land, the first landmass that was formed at the beginning of the world, rising up out of the primordial ocean, Afu Ra began to move through that first mountainous landmass through the first Ka. That became known as the Ka of Afura, Afuraka, that's Africa, the land of the creator. And Afuraika is the female version of that title, the land of the creatress. So we go into a little bit of detail about that, but of course, all of that is in the book, in the other book. Because Ra and Ra'ed operate through the Aten, the sun, they are not the sun is the Aten. They're the spirit that animates the sun and all the other stars. They operate through the Aten. They are often erroneously referred to as the sun god and sun god. In reality, Ra and Ra'ed use the Aten, the sun, and other stars as physical transmitters of their spiritual energy. This is how they manifest through the fire of the Aten, the fire of the sun. The term black is erroneously traced back to Eurasian languages by the whites and their offspring. So we show etymological dictionary, entry, Old English black and blackas and blacker, and Old Norse and Old German blach, Swedish black, dealing with ink and blacken, to burn. Proto-Indo-European, when you see PIE, Proto-Indo-European, this is talking about the posited original language family from which all of the European languages, Indo-European, from India and Europe, all the languages are born of, and they were placed back a few thousand years. The original language family of this group. The Proto-Indo-European root, meaning this is as far back as they can go, is Balek, B-H-L-E-G, Balek. So black from the root Balek, to burn, gleam, shine, flash. In Greek, phalekian, to burn, to scorch. Latin, flagrare, like flagrant, flagrare, to blaze, to glow, to burn, and so forth. From the root bel, B-H-E-L. So belek from B-H-E-L, beleh, meaning to shine, to flash, to burn. Then they will say, see the term bleach, because bleach actually is belik, and it comes from the same root. So look at the term bleach, because of course these Negroes will say, you need to look at bleach. So Old English and Proto-Germanic and Old Saxon, and we still go all the way back to the Proto-Indo-European root, baleh or balek, meaning to shine, flash, burn, to burn, shine, lightning, to flash, all of that. So once you see those entries, and that's as far back as these Negroes who call themselves Moors go, because they worship the whites and their offspring, and that's as far as back as they can go. When the whites and their offspring say the Proto-Indo-European root, and they can't go back further, that's because they don't go back further than that to the language of ancient Kemet, where these terms can be found. So as we can see on page 21, the term black is traced back to the Proto-Indo-European root palek, and the root bel, meaning to shine, flash, and burn. The Greek and Latin related terms are phalekian and flagrare. Note that flagrare is the root of the English term flagrant. We can also see that the term bleach is traced to the same root, bleak. The reason why bleach and black are related because bleach burns, and something that has been on fire or has burned becomes the whiteness associated with bleach and black, both related to burning, has to do with the fact that the fire of the Akan, the fire of the sun, and fire in general shines or burns white and burns things black. These terms also have their roots in ancient Kemet. So when they talk about, well, we can't call ourselves black, because black actually means pale, and you look at black and you look at bleach and it means pale, it means the same thing, and then all of that nonsense, we're talking about a cosmological foundation, the union between white and black in the same term, because when the fire of the Aten burns something, it's shining and burning white, the white light of the sun, but then it burns the things that is touching black. That's why those two colors converge in the same term. Now, then we go further. As we show in our book, Afuraka Afuraikai, the people of North Afuraka Afuraikai, often called the Afrika people, often pronounced the Afarik and the Afri people, have their roots in Khanit and Kamit. The terms Afer and Afri in Kamit means to burn, to be hot, and smoke, hot, vapor. So we say show Afer, to burn, to be hot, and Afri in the Medusu, smoke, hot, and vapor. Why is AFER and AFRI meaning to burn, to be hot, smoke, hot, and vapor? It's because the roots of these terms are Akhura and Akhurayet. Ra and Rayet, the creator and creatress, operating through the Aten, the sun, the great white, shining, burning fire, caused the water of the primordial earth to boil and create vapor. This is why Afri, coming from Afu Rai, means smoke, hot, and vapor. Because the fire of Ra and Rayet moving through that primordial earth caused the water to burn and create that vapor. It is their divine energy which activates our abatum, our melanin, and causes us to become black. Some of the descendants of North Afurakainu, North Afurakainu, now called Berbers, meaning the black Berbers, not talking about the white invaders who now call themselves Berbers, but the black Berbers are called Fula, as in Fulani. The term Fula is directly derived from Afura. Remember in ancient Kemet, there's no letter L, there's just a rolling R. Just like in Akan, there's no letter L, there's just a rolling R. So if you translate a word from Greek, for example, that has the letter L, like Ptolemy, you have to use the medut for the letter R because there was no medut for the letter L, so rolling R. So Ptolemy from the Greek becomes Ptolemy in ancient Kemet. The same in Akan, a word like mulatto, which is a foreign word, becomes murato, the rolling R because we don't have a letter L. So the Fulani people, the Fula people, in other places like in Darfur, they call Fora. You find that, but the Fula comes directly from Afura. They can be found across the continent, from east, west, and so forth, Sudan to central, northwest, and Senegal, Gambia, all over the place. There are variations in the way that the Fula pronounce their name. In the languages, in Afurakani languages, the P and the S often interchange. And that's not just like in English, you say, you have the letter P, but then you have the PH, which is also an F. But in our languages, P and F often interchange. This is why some Fula people, F-U-L-A, pronounce and spell their name Puel, P-E-U-L, or P-E-L. There's an interchange between the F and the P, depending on where the Fula people are. Amongst the Hausa, for example, they're Fula. You go further towards Senegal, Pula, Puel, and so forth. That's a branch of the ancient Afrika people, Afarik people, Afri people, Furak people, Afurak people, the Fula people also call themselves Puel. This is a manifestation of the ancient root of the relationship between Belek and Bel, Fula, Fulak, Furak, Afurak, and Puel. The B, P, and F in European languages interchange because this feature was taken from Afurakani languages. This is how Belek becomes Felek, as in Felekian in Greek, and flagrant in Latin. This is how the name of the ancient region of Kemet called Paraka or Pila. In Coptic becomes Philae. In Greek, the P becomes an F, or the PH sound. Another example is the title of the creator. A major title of Ra in Kemet is Pa Ra. Pa is a definite article meaning the. Pa Ra means the God Ra. Pa Ra or Para. In Coptic, Para, P-A, Pa, and then Ra, the God Ra, Para, truncated into Para. By the time you get to Coptic, instead of Para or Pre, P-R-A or P-R-E in Coptic, it becomes P-H-R-E, Pre. So Pre becomes Pre, Para becomes Para. And we show that in Coptic as well. We show the B and the F interchanging in the term bird, B-E-R-G. It becomes ferg. Butter becomes ferg in Coptic, to force open a door. The B sound becomes the F sound, ferg and ferg. We show that in the Medusa. We show the Coptic version. We show the original version. If you look at the body, our bodies, the Afu, when the fire, the white shining fire of Ra and Ra'et moves inside the physical matter of our body, our flesh, our Afu, we have blackness as a result. The titles of Afura and Afuraet are also the origin of this English term fire. Afura, Afura becomes fire. Fire is from Fura. This also accounts for the notion of the adjective pale, as in puel, fula, being associated with black and bleach. It references the radiant light, meaning the pale white light of the fire of Fura, Afura, Afuraet. Moreover, the terms flagian and flagrare, flagrant, are rooted in fara, fala, afura, faraka, and so forth. So we go into all of that detail in that section of the book to show those connections and to dispel all of that nonsense. So, but the whole book, More Means Dead, goes into detail about the term more and showing the cosmological foundation for why more means dead. Okay. So did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. Meda said we appreciate that call. Okay. And now we're going to get to this last section of the ANIDAHO, just the smallest section left in this particular section about Negas and so forth, because we need to address some of the other connotations for the term. And let's get back to that section that will be on page, going up to page 30, going back to page 38. No, actually, no, page 40, my bad. All right. Okay, and also, there are only 15 minutes left in the broadcast, so if you want to, we may go just a couple of minutes past 11 o'clock, just in case we do. You have 15 minutes to call in, because once 11 o'clock hits, then if you're just listening online, it will cut off online. But everybody who's on the phone line, you'll still be able to hear beyond 11 o'clock. So if you want to stay on beyond 11 o'clock, and we probably won't go more than a couple of minutes over, you have about, well, actually 13 and a half minutes to call in. The call-in number is 657-383-0635, 657-383-0635. You have about a little more than 13 minutes to call in, to get on the phone line. All right. And also, before we get to this last section, we mentioned this earlier in the show. So we're in the midst of a mini fundraiser tonight. We started our NHOMA monthly book subscription option. So of course, we have 16 books, as we said earlier. All of the ebooks of our books are free downloads from our website, so you can always download all of our books at any time. We also publish and print on our own printers in-house ourselves. In color, we print our own books. And they range between the softcover books, they range between $8 and $11. If you order 10 books or more, like some people order the 10-book set, the first 10 books, or 11 or 12, or the whole 16-book set, any order of 10 books or more is automatically 30% off. So, for example, the first 10 books, including this book we're talking about tonight, like if you and you can order 10 of any one of them, any mix of the 16 titles, but 10 books is $66 for 10 books. If someone was to order the entire 16-book set, it breaks down to about $7 per book. So it's like $105 for the entire 16-book set. But what we also have is we created this option over a week ago, the NHOMA monthly book subscription option. So some people may not have the funds, or some people may want to pay for their learning and would like to support the work that we're doing as well, because maybe you've read the free books online or got the broadcast and you just want to support. One way to support and also receive, books at the same time in the process is our NHOMA monthly book subscription option, which simply is when you go to the NHOMA page, the same page where you would normally purchase the book, there's a donation button. You can make a donation and you can just simply click recurrent payment. And when you make the recurrent payment option, that means PayPal will deduct that same amount and send it to us for you, do that deduction for you every month on the same day. You can cancel that whenever you want. You can start it one day and then cancel it the next day, or you can do it whenever you want. So, for example, if you made a $15 donation, just click the donation button, hit $15, and click the box that said, do you want this to be a recurrent payment? That means every month on the same date, from that point on, you will automatically have a $15 donation. Also, we'll send you one of our books. So just like if you ordered a book, a $10 book, and then there's $5 for shipping or whatever, that's $15. We'll send out a book with this recurrent piece. Since we have 16 books, you would receive at least one book per month for the next 16 months, automatically every month on the same day. That way, it's simply a $15 a month donation that's automatically taken out. This is your book subscription. If you wanted to order 2 books and receive 2 books per month for the next 8 months, you can do that. If you just wanted to do it for 3 months, or 1 month or 2 months or something like that, that's all up to you. So this is the mini fundraiser that we're having. We're trying to raise funds to fund the different free workshops that we carry out. We have the substance abuse abstinence, and we have a ritual method for that. Of course, these things are free when we do these workshops, and when we have this method we share with our people, and our people have been able to get off of alcohol and tobacco and marijuana and other drugs and so forth. We have domestic violence neutralization, domestic abuse neutralization, the Aakhuamuman. We have the overcoming transcarnational trauma, the trauma recovery alignment, the Aakhuamuman. So assisting our people to realign themselves and get their lives back together after intergenerational trauma. Suffering from that very often causes people to engage in self-destructive activities, relationships, and it causes negativity within their own lives, the lives of their children, and so forth, and they can't seem to break that cycle. We have cultural and ritual methods rooted in our ancestral religious practices to elevate our people out of that. Of course, all of that is free. So those programs, as well as giving away the free book, we have every time we do a presentation, when we go to different cities, we give away free books to people. We do not charge for presentations, and we do not organizers of events for presentations. We don't charge a speaker's fee, and we never charge an admissions fee for people to come and hear us do a presentation. We do a 3-hour presentation or something like that. We're not charging people $10 to get in. In fact, it's always free, and we always give away a free copy of one of our books to everyone who comes out. So they come in for a free presentation, and they leave with a free soft cover copy of one of our books. And we've only been able to do that through the assistance, the support of the community. When you purchase books, then we're able to, of course, pay for the websites and the shows and everything else, but we can also set aside a little something whenever we can. So when we do a presentation, we can give away free books. The Whites in Arrow Spring are giving away free Bibles and Qurans to our people every single day, brainwashing our people, poisoning our people. So some of us who are, engaged in this work, we're working to get free content out whenever we can. We're doing it with the ebook version, but we would like to do the same thing with the soft cover versions whenever we can. Of course, if we were millionaires, we would give away all of the soft cover versions of our books for free and give them to every black person in the world. So we're not at that point yet, but we do what we can. So anytime you make a purchase, that supports all of our efforts. So that monthly book distribution piece, I'll put the link in the chat room. This is a mini fundraiser for tonight and tomorrow. Raising funds, we're going to be doing a event in Philadelphia, as a matter of fact, coming up. We want to get ready for that. We've given away over 350 free softcover books over the course of a 12-month period in different states. We want to keep that program going. Because sometimes even people are just being turned on to the information. The first thing they get hit with is, well, in order to get this information, you're going to have to pay whatever. They may have been already conditioned against it because it was going against Christianity and Islam and everything else. And you hit them with that price, and they're like, well, no, you know, the Muslims gave me a free Bible. The Christians gave me a free Quran. The Christians gave me a free Bible. The Hebrews gave me a Bible. And when I come to ancestral culture, it's supposed to be the real thing, which it is. The first thing I get hit with is the price. Well, like a sister told me the other day, we sent out our information about, you know, our 16 publications, and she said, you know, I'm really interested in your publications. I'm really interested in the $15 a month, you know, subscription, but I just had a baby, and I'm not able to do so right now. But as soon as I am able, within a few months, couple of months, I will, you know, participate in that $15 a month subscription because I would like to receive those books. And I was like, you know, we appreciate that, but understand that the ebook versions of all of these books in their entirety are free online, so you can access those immediately. And she was very appreciative of that because she wasn't aware of that. Now, what would I look like listening to a woman who just had a baby, and she says, well, I can't afford $15 a month. And then I turn around and say, well, but in a couple of months I will be able to afford it. And then I turn around and say, well, I appreciate your support, sister, and I'll see you in a couple of months. How could we consciously do that? That would be unconscionable when I could simply make that book available for free online. All I have to do is post it on the website. And everybody can do that. Everybody can post their books on the website. So we have to get this information out. We're not going to hold the information ransom when some of our people, through no fault of their own, have no income, so they just can't learn the real information. Only thing they can learn is the false information until they get the money. We can't operate like that. So this is why we're doing that. So that's why we're having this mini fundraiser. We're trying to raise some funds in a short time so that we can get more of these books printed out and to support these programs. So if you would like to support that endeavor, you can, whether you order one or more books just in general, or the whole 16-book set, or the 10-book set, or whatever, all of those options are on the NHOMA page, the publications page on the website. You'll see the 30% off of the 10-book set, 11-book set, 12, 13, 14, 15, as well as the 16-book set, as well as just the regular, if you just want to purchase one book or two or three, all of those options are there. And then we also have the monthly subscription option, and whatever amounts you want to make for a monthly subscription, that's up to you. You can do that, that's fine. But you'll definitely receive at least one book or more per month until you decide you want to cancel that. And that's very simple. You just go on PayPal and hit cancel, and that's it. So, and yet I'll say for the individuals who have purchased some books recently, of course, that goes to support everything that we're doing. Okay, and we appreciate those who are supporting that fundraiser. Okay, there was another question sister had asked and the brother asked in the chat room. How do those attributes described about Afi relate to someone born on Meminidah? So, when we talk about the Abosun Afi, which is Heteru, major female force governing the planet Afi, and then the major male force governing the planet Afi, one of his titles is Fi or Fai or Fi. That is a title of Amen Men. When he's operating, for example, you see the divinity Men with the erect phallus. That simply means that he's the force in nature dealing with regeneration. The union of Men and Heteru is the union of the male and female, the procreative union and so forth. So he's the male force of procreativity and the female force of procreativity. That's Fi and Afi and Akan. They are Orisha Oko and Oshun Ibu Dioko, Oshun, the wife of Oko. In the Yoruba tradition, it's Azili and Azaka and Vodun and so forth. So this is what we're dealing with when they're operating through the planet Fi or Afi, Venus. When Afi or Heteru and Amen Men or Fi are operating in connection with Amen and Amenet, the deity Men is called Amen Men. His regular title is Men. One of his praise names is Fi or Fai. And you see his arm lifted up, holding up a flare called Fi or Fai. His title is Men. Sometimes they spell it M-I-N, it's really M-E-N. So his name is Men, his praise name is Fi. When he's called Amen Men, operating through the planet Amen Men or Saturn, which is a different kind of energy. It's a preservation kind of energy. And then her name, Heteru, her title becomes Meni, because she's operating in harmony with Amenet. So instead of being called Fi, when she's operating through the planet Fi, which has its own energy, the planet quote-unquote Venus has its own energy, when they operate planet Saturn, which has a different kind of energy, they are called Amen Men and Meni. They're still husband and wife, but they're operating in concert with Amen and Amenet. This is why they take on that title. Two different divinities, though. Just like you can have your name, and then you also have the name of your aunt or your uncle, because you have some of their characteristics. Your aunt and your uncle are still your aunt and your uncle, because you have some of their characteristics and also some of their, DNA and so forth. Then you can add their name to yours because you all share certain kinds of characteristics. When Amen and Amenet are operating through and in connection with Afi and Men and Amen Men, and they have a different kind of character of energy, and it's that energy that operates through the planet Amini or Saturn. And when that takes place, then you look at our article, for example, on Amen Men and Afi, and they're dealing with preservation. When you see Amen Men and he's mummified, preservation of culture, but also constantly inseminating creation, dealing with ancestral protocol and all of those kinds of things. They'll say he's a defender of the past, ancestral protocol, Sankofa, preservation of culture, preservation of Amambre. Our culture is the context within which we operate. That's everything that we do is dependent, our capacity to live in harmony with order is dependent on our culture, our way of life. Sometimes people think culture is just, culture is just not important. Your culture is your way of life that's encoded within us biologically and spiritually. For example, fish need water, crocodiles need water. If crocodiles decided they're going to take in water like a fish and go down up under the water and take in a deep breath, then they will die because they're not living according to their culture. Their biology determines their culture, their way of life. Yes, they need water and they also need oxygen. Fish need water, they need oxygen. Fish have gills, they can take in that water and oxygen underwater. The crocodile lives in water but breathes air, not water, as we say in the Akan tradition. Their nose and their eyes is right above the water, but the rest of their body is in the water. They're surrounded by other individuals, fish that don't look like them and do not operate like them. If they were to try to follow the surrounding culture, then they would dip their heads underwater and take a deep breath and they would die. If they don't live according to their nature and their culture is written into their nature, then they will die. If we don't operate according to what we were encoded with by the Supreme Being, we will suffer on every level. So Amen Men and Min Mini, they preserve that culture, preserve that ancestral protocol. How are we to go about each and every day and so forth? How are we to manifest ourselves and manifest our life focus each and every day? So that's all wired within that kind of energy. So check out the article on Afi and Amen Men, the Akradin Bosom page, you'll see that there. So we go into detail about that. And we did a couple of broadcasts on that as well, focused specifically on their nature when they're operating through that particular planetary body as opposed to when they operate through the other planetary body. All right. Okay, we're going to take one more call, and then we're going to get to that last piece on the NKOSO section. Okay, Michiobo on the phone line, number 0166. Had a question or a comment?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, what's up?
Okay. I had a question about, sorry, this is going a little far back to something that you said earlier. You've spoken a few times about the parts of the bodies that the different deities reside in, and I was curious to know if the deities residing in specific body parts, if those body parts are damaged, is there some sort of damage to the connection with that deity, and if so, by what means, what cultural means do we have to repair that damage?
Well, as far as the connection with the deity, only on the physical level. So, for example, if somebody was deaf, right, whether they were born deaf or whatever, the abosom can still possess them. The abosom can still show up. They pour libation and they sat down. The abosom, they can still see them and so forth. Physically, they couldn't hear them because their eardrums are damaged or, were never fully developed. But the divinity is still there. They can still communicate with them. It's just their physical body doesn't allow them to operate. In the same fashion, if somebody had suffered injury to their womb and things like that, their womb would be damaged. That doesn't mean the abosom afi can't communicate with this person. They're really communicating with the spirit of the person anyway. So we can still communicate with them on a spiritual level, but it just, the resonance within that physical aspect of our being is not as strong. No different than if somebody is, if someone is ill, if someone has pneumonia, something like that, they're bedridden for a couple of days. The abosom are the abosom, so they can always communicate with the spirit of the person. But because the person's body is, suffering, that energy won't fully manifest as far as vibrance and everything else. I mean, if they got possessed temporarily, that vibrance would be there because it's another force moving their body around. But once that force moves out, their spirit is still connected to their body, and they have to get their body back in harmony so that their spirit and their body can work in symbiosis. So, but the spirit communication can always take place. Of course, we want to always do everything we can to repair the physical vessel to the best of our ability and keep it strong and so forth, but that will not preclude communication from the abosom. Just like if somebody is paraplegic from the neck down, they can still interact. Their body just can't move. For example, they can speak to you. You can come into the room, you can have a conversation. Just like if their body was fully functional, you could have a conversation. That communication is nonstop. Those directions and admonitions from the abosom is nonstop. But if the physical body is paraplegic, then they just won't be able to operate physically. And it's the same thing if somebody is damaged. We always have access to the forces of nature, always have access to the unsamanko, extent that we keep our bodies in harmony and keep them, in alignment, tuned, then our physical bodies become a channel, an open channel of energy as well, and they resonate at the frequency of the abosom when they communicate with us. And that just makes the communication more optimal. It makes it more full. It makes it stronger. It makes it more, resounding within us, reverberates within us. But sometimes there are some damages, or somebody may have been in the military and they lost an arm or something like that. They can still communicate with the abosom. But does that answer the question?
Yes, to some degree. Yes, thank you.
Okay, gracias. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's get to this last piece, and it's just a final piece in the ANIDAHO book, and that's on page 40. Very short piece, because when you saw one of the definitions of the NKOSO, so-called NEHESU, but NKOSO, talking about the Nubians and so forth, but then you also find that NKOSO not only means sing and chant and everything else, but it can also mean to mutter incantations and things like that. So let's get into some of that, clear some of that up. We say, while we can see the cosmological foundation of the term NEHESU, and Kamit and Akan in association with the Nubians, Ethiopians, south of Kamit. We must also recognize the political reality of the relationship between the Afro-Kainut Africans of Kamit and Khanit during different times in true history. There were periods where they were allies, while during other periods they were adversaries. This is where the notion of the NHOSU, Nagasua, NHOSU, being those who mutter incantations, engage in negative forms of quote-unquote witchcraft, etc., derived from. The ritual practice of chanting, ritual song, ritual dance, spirit possession, etc., can be used for productive or non-productive purposes. While the Khanitu, the Nubians, were known for having powerful quote-unquote magic, meaning ritual capabilities during times of conflict, this capacity was recharacterized as the Nubian Ethiopians being quote-unquote sorcerers. The same dynamic exists today amongst various Afro-Kainut African groups. Some ethnic groups regard their neighbors as steeped in sorcery and characterize them as spiritual criminals not to be trusted. There are some Akan, for example, who label the neighboring and related Nzema people in this fashion. They'll say, well, you know, the Nzema people, they're into that witchcraft because they were at odds with them. But when they're in harmony with them, then everything is good. You see, the Yoruba people sometimes will label the Igbo people that say, oh, well, you know, those people are into witchcraft when they're, you know, in conflict politically. When they're in harmony with one another, then they're like, well, they're great spiritualists and they do great healing work and so forth. But when they're in conflict, they say, oh, well, they're into that witchcraft. They try to denigrate people. We still engage in some of that nonsense today. Same thing was happening back then. And you see that borne out in the text. So, from the text of Ka'emwaset and Sa'asar, often written Kamwas and Si or City or Sa or Cyrus, so to speak, we quote from that particular text. Sometimes they'll say a magical text and so forth, quoting from this text. Said the other of them, this is a direct quote from the text, said the other of them after saying, let Amen not find for me misfortune, nor the Qur of Kemet cause abomination to be done to me. I would cast my magic up to Kemet that I might cause the Ptah, the so-called Pharaoh of Kemet, to be brought to the land of the NKOSO, and cause him to be beaten with a scourging 500 blows of the stick in the midst before the viceroy, and cause him to be brought back up to Kemet in 6 hours precisely. When the viceroy heard that the 3 men of Ethiopia had said what the 3 men of Ethiopia had said, he ordered them to be brought before him. He said to them, who of you is he that said, I will cast my magic up to Kemet? I will not allow them to see light in 3 days and 3 nights. They said, it is Heru, son of the Sa. Said he, who is he that said, I will cast my magic up to Kemet? I will bring the Ptah to the land of NHOSU. I will cause him to be beaten with a scourging 500 blows of the stick in the midst of the viceroy. I will cause him to be taken back to Kemet in 6 hours precisely. Then they said, it is Heru, the son of the NHOSU. As we can see, there are political reasons why the NHOSU at certain times were being labeled as sorcerers in Kemet. The term kos, often written Hes or Hesi, but it's really kos or koso, referencing spiritual practices, are therefore selectively given a pejorative connotation at times when referencing the Khanitu. So when you read that story, and at this particular time, there was conflict between the people of Kemet and the people of Khanat. So all of a sudden, the people of Ethiopia, the NKOSO, now they're sorcerers and they're using their magic to wage war against the king and so forth. But when they were allied with one another, for example, when during the 25th dynasty, and that's not the only dynasty, of course, all of the dynasties were born of the people migrating from ancient Khanat, Nubia, and establishing Kemet. So they knew that these are the people from their ancestral land. But for example, a prominent example during the 25th dynasty and forward, when the people of ancient Khanit retook the entire country of Kemet away from the rule of Negroes who were allied with the whites and their offspring and so forth, Of course, they were seen as liberators, Pianki coming in, and Taharka and the others, Tanut Amen and so forth, Shabaka, Shabataka and so forth, seen as liberators of Kemet. They were in harmony. They loved what they were doing. So they weren't looking at the people of the Nghasu, the Nubians, as sorcerers and everything else. So we must recognize that political reality. So when you see some of those texts, and there's only a few of them where they're referencing the quote-unquote Nubians, Nghasu, and sorcerers and so forth, this is what happens. And you find the same thing when you find some people who have that spiritual connection to the Abosom. They get possessed by the Abosom, get possessed by the Nananom and Samanfo. They wield a little bit of extra energy and can make certain things happen. When people are fearful of them and even jealous of them, envious of them, they would say, well, they're into that witchcraft and into that negative stuff and so forth, and they try to denigrate the people and keep other people away from them. So, okay. So, and so that's final piece. We just finally show the cosmology of Khanit and Kamit and its continuum in our Akhan culture that today is the infrastructure which gave birth to the term Nkosu. Nkosu in ancient Kemet and Khanit, Nkoso in Akhan, as a title of Het Heru, her divine function in creation, her association with royalty, house of Heru, the king, Herit, the queen, and more. So-called Nehes or NEHESU, vocalized as Nkosu in Akhan, is the origin of Ngesu, Ngasu, Negasu, Neges, Negas, Nagas, and so forth. The root Kas or Hasu, becoming Kosu in Akan, but Hos or Hosu in ancient Kemet, is clearly not the word nigger or naga. That's idiotic. For details about the actual etymology of the word naga, of course, we publish our book in Yonkumpong and in Yonkuntong, Ra and Raet, but also in the next section of this particular book, ANIDAHO, we go into detail about Ra-Ka becoming Da-Ka, or Nan-Ka, or Naga, and so forth, but the name is Ra-Aka. Ra-Aka is not nigger, and it's corrupted into Naga, but it's Ra-Ka or Nan-Ka, and that's what it is. People running around trying to continuously figure out ways and contort definitions and contort their spirits into a form so that they can say, they can just keep calling themselves nigger. They will not stop. They're like, I'm going to call myself nigger. I don't care who knows it. I am going to serve my white master, and I don't care who knows it. This is what's going on. This is that emotional instability. It's a manifestation of that pathology that we have held on to and, continue to display as people. Once we awaken and realign with our krawa, our soul, our divine consciousness, then we get back to normal. So, we're going to end it here at 11:15. Yet I'll say we thank you for tuning in. And again, if you support the work that we are doing, please participate in this mini fundraiser we're having tonight. You can go now to the NHOMA page on our website and go to the donation button. You can start your monthly subscription. Again, you can cancel whenever you would like, but you can receive one book a month for the next 16 months or 3 months or 2 months or whatever you would like. But this is a way to assist us in the work that we are doing. So we appreciate that support. And Yedase, we thank you once again. And Yebeshia Bio, we will meet again. What's up?